First today's session 2, as the topic is how has teaching shaped method of teaching, learning, and research. And I'm Seong Kim. At the moment, I'm working for Hanyang University in Seoul, Korea, as a vice president for the academic affairs. We will talk about, its changing demographics and students' shifting expectations of their learning environment, prompting universities to re-examine pedagogies and the use of resources, and including some, human competence and education. What will be the most important role of university education in this shifting, information technology changing area?
Here, I think I will speak about the following. I mean, technology allows us, broadband, to do things faster. We can do more. So are we doing just more of the same? It's just faster and more connected? Or are we actually seeing a real paradigm shift? So, to set the stage, this is the internet penetration in 2014. Around 43% of the world is on the internet. Well, since we're in Korea, of course, 91%, and you have twice as fast broadband as has the US. It's the fastest broadband in the world. So another staggering fact is that the first connection many people will do will be on the tablet or the smartphone. So if you think on education, think of those devices. How challenging and how central is this to the educational institutions? So this is a study from the Economist unit in 2014. The two major, biggest things they thought be important for the next 5 years was integrating online learning into the curriculum, as well as competing internationally. And of course, both of these connect to the digital aspects. So these were the two most important things higher educational institutions were thinking of. So I will talk about three things, and I was asked to be a bit provocative, so I'll be that. I'll start to discuss around what we do a bit, collaborative research, why this matters. Sharing and learning, we're entering into a sharing economy in terms of education as well, research. And finally, the perhaps a bit more provocative part, computers that learn. So you'll see what I mean by that. So first of all, actually, why are we here? We are an information solution company and publisher. We publish a lot of scientific information, but we're also actually an employer. Most of these we employ right now are the people with the IT background, the IT skills that you guys here will educate in this 21st century. So the most people we hire as a publishing company are IT people right now. Okay, so to set the stage, how does research change the world? This is just an example. It's a paper. It happened to be published in a proceeding we do. It's called The Anatomy of a Large-Scale Hypertextual Web Search Engine. It doesn't sound so fascinating, right? But then you find out that the two authors is Sergey and Larry. Okay. But then you read the abstract. It says, in this paper, we present Google. So this is why we're here. Search, discovery, enabling technology. So science is becoming more collaborative. This is just one example, the extreme example, particle physics. So this is the team behind the discovery of why we have mass, the Higgs particle. So thanks to cheap air travel, internet, scientists collaborate more, and also because there are more challenging questions to solve. It takes such a big team to solve these issues. If we look from our data, this is the degree of international co-authorship of scientific papers versus time. So it's increasing. And in the case, especially since we're British Council, right? So if we take UK, more than 50%. Asia's extreme case, Singapore, more than 60% of scientific papers are co-written with authors from 2 different countries or more. And it's increasing as well in Korea. Asian countries in this respect have a slight challenge. But the overall trend is this increasing because scientists, by sharing this knowledge, they benefit and they can become actually more productive in this collaborative fashion. So how about sharing and learning? So as I mentioned, we're a kind of digital company. So what is it all about, these technology things we do? It's about saving time to reflect, time to be able to think more deeply, be it on having more smart content so you can do your discovery in a better way, doing some analytics on where you're going, being able to reach out with your findings, or for strategy to decide further. It's also the same thing about education, I think. Give the time for reflection. That is, reflection gives your own learning, right? So some examples of how things look from the research world today. This is an actual researcher dashboard where the authors we're working with, they will be able to see who are reading their papers, not exactly who is reading, but the number of people reading, but who are quoting them, who are citing them. This is actually important in science. They actually get a mail, you got cited. But increasingly in science, we want to create societal impact, right? So we have the traditional things like citations or peer review, others like what you do, but increasingly also usage, who is actually downloading to read your scientific papers. This information is now becoming available. Increasingly, we go beyond that. Look at social media as well, or public engagement metrics, if you like. For instance, where are things stored? From which country people are reading it? Which social media platform? How is it cited in news, links, bookmarks, Facebook, Twitter? This is increasingly captured as well as a way for scientists to see about impact. So this is a very interesting movement now in that scientists are beginning to crowdsource scientific information. I mentioned 3 cases here: academia.edu, ResearchGate, and Mendeley. Mendeley is a UK company. Twitter as well. You have science on Twitter. And this is becoming some of the biggest source of scientific information. This crowdsource information. We actually work to provide links to connect the dots for this knowledge. So actually Mendeley joined Elsevier in 2013, I think. And it's a way basically scientists can network and share things with peers. They can actually work within texts. We also now work on reviewers being able to go in to comment in the text online. And next stage, you see also reviewers working together with the authors to improve. They can see things around download information and so on. And also have open APIs, so developers can come in and develop new things. So this crowdsources way of working is one way that science is actually accelerating itself. So, okay, there's a lot of things out there. You have both this traditional citing information and so forth, and you have all this social media. So how to cope with all this information overflow? So one way we and others are working is basically to try to leverage on all this big data. So actually, Another UK company, I have to mention UK, proud to do that, Newsflow, also joined very recently to work together with the Mendeley. So what they do actually is that they gather at this stage from 55,000 sources, scientifically relevant sightings in media, and then help universities to make use of that. So increasingly, I do think we will see this type of information gathering to make more sense of what is out there. So another movement is actually to be able to go in earlier on in the discovery process to work with information. And this is from the Office of Science and Technology Policy in the US. Obama launched something called the Material Genomics Initiative. He wanted to accelerate up material science by allowing the background data, underlying data, to be openly available for researchers to use in a good way. And we have then lived up to that, and we work with 13 of our journals where you can submit data for plots, you can submit data, underlying data, which is basically also curated, so it's not only raw data, but useful data. And this is another movement increasingly we are seeing. It's a bit of a messy slide, but this is from the European Commission, their view of Science 2.0 in analogy with Web 2.0 or open science. And in red is actually how we are working on that. So many things on citizen science, open code, open access, alternative reputation, and so forth. So it's a major movement going on, and it's highly interesting. So going back a bit to learning. So I found this quite interesting. We're all so admiring of Harvard, right? So this is a quote from the inaugural speech of the first president of Harvard. The revolution in other fields have a lesson for teachers. In education, there is a great hungry multitude to be fed. It's almost like he was anticipating the MOOCs. Well, maybe not. So, according to Harvard, another Harvard scientist, Clayton Christensen, who coined the term about disruptive innovation. If you look on the bricks and mortar universities, whereas the bricks and clicks, or the clicks and mortar, or the virtual universities, there are many things that the real virtual ones maybe need not to do. And this, according to Christensen, in this respect, is a clear indicator that we have a disruption in the making. So another way to think about this is that I think what will come in, you have heard about the MOOCs, the TOOCs, teaching online qualified engaged students, basically the combination of the two. So there is one thing to this, and I think Andy will come to that, is that all this with the MOOCs, what is done, is just more of the same. It's not done smarter. So you also have to think about smart and adaptive content, or if you like, smart learning. I know here in Korea you have the smart homes and the smart fridges and many things that are very smart. So unless we actually make the ways and the content we work with, I mean, I represent a technology company, smarter in some sense, we're not fully benefiting from this technology. So this is just one example from kind of reference volume we put together, e-online, where in this case it's a bit small in the corner. There is a virtual microscope put in. So we work with microscopes, 3D viewers, many other things, and also around adaptive learning, and maybe you will come into that in your talk, where in our case we started to work in health education for nurses. And overall, I think we're just in the early stage of this development. So the final thing, computers that learn. There is somewhat of a paradigm in that we are indeed using IT very, very much to create jobs, right? But we also have jobs that are disappearing. And perhaps this is natural development because we rather want to work with the new technology than the old technology, which may be very boring or even bad or hurting. So I'm an optimist in many ways, I should say. But there has recently been some clouds on the horizon. And just to mention a few things, in 1997, I think the Grand Chess Master in chess became a computer. IBM Watson has won Jeopardy. I think 2 years ago, Microsoft demonstrated simultaneous translation from English to Chinese. And as you know, Microsoft owns Skype, so this is something that's coming onto Skype. And also Google has demonstrated through deep learning algorithms without knowing what a cat is. Apparently cats are very popular on the internet. So without knowing what a cat is, a deep learning algorithm learned to sort out pictures of cats on the internet. So it's much faster, much less salary, and more scalable than any human could do this, of course. We are, of course, as a company as well, working with some of these things, especially in health sciences, but also for financial and risk management. So, in discussing technology in education, I think we also need to discuss what skills are needed for the future. There was a study by two Oxford University economists called Benedict Frey and Michael Osborne, who showed that in the next 20 years, some 47% of US jobs may be replaced by some automated solution. The PWE, or Pew Research Institute, made a study where they invited experts in 2014, and the experts were divided in two camps. I belong to the optimist, actually. It advances humanity. So the optimists were basically saying, well, technology creates new jobs. Technology will free us from the boring or even sometimes dangerous jobs. On the other hand, pessimists were saying, well, technology will give a few new jobs, but many more gone. But the other thing I want to bring up here is that, is the educational system prepared for this? Is the educational system prepared enough for this? So just to give the context here, this is the KIST Engay robot in 2011 teaching English at the Hanyang primary school in Daegu, Korea. Are we enhancing using technology like this, or are we replacing our human element? I think we need to discuss this quite a lot, how we actually form the future. That's why we're here. So as final comments, basically, technology, it speeds up idea flow. It connects researchers, and it brings in the sharing economy. It connects students, of course, as well. Technology for the university 2.0, is it bricks versus clicks? Bricks or mortar versus the virtual? But it also means that the connectivity means that the world is also a new recruitment ground and also a competitive ground. So technology poses questions, and that was my provocative part. So are we in this respect training for the right skills? Increasingly with the technological acceleration, we will need to discuss this, I guess.
Challenge or opportunity, and then democratization, and now collaboration. But we should remember here, we have to prepare for jobs through our education. Maybe a big topic, isn't it? The experts cannot decide so far. So we will not make up our mind, today, but we can prepare for these sessions. And continuously, Professor Miah, Chair in Science Communication and Future Media, University of Salford.